Hello and welcome to Dell's Gaming. I'm Dell and this is From the Depths, and we're just on one of my little starter type forts which I'm using as a little bit of a test. And in this episode we'll be looking at some of the local resource elements which are coming soon to a patch near you. So first of all, I'd like to say, after the previous video, that the build I am running is a development build, which means what we're seeing here is due to be coming out into the standard Steam at some point in the near future. So this is very much what is to be coming soon and in test rather than live now. Although, if you're obviously seeing this in a couple of weeks' time, I'm sure it will be live, in which case it will be information. So I'll be calling this sort of like series is like in development, etc., as part of the lab builds. So okay, just to confirm, this build that I'm running is 1.8653. I think the current main stable build is a couple of versions below that. You've got the advanced cannons but not the local resources. So what is all the local resources about? Well, we're very used to, and I'm in the development designer at the moment, so all of the values at the bottom show infinite, but normally you're be used to in campaign seeing at the bottom, starting from the left, there would be your natural resources, the amount that you've mined of natural resources, metal, oil, scrap, and then crystal. And then there is a few other resources which are specific to the vehicle you're in, which is on the right hand side. You've got ammo at the top, and then fuel, and then your power, etc. below that, which is based upon your engine. So at the moment it's a global pool. Those figures at the bottom are available to any ship anywhere in the stable build. Now the latest patch has made these values, or the resources, be allocated to specific vehicles and be stored in the vehicles rather than a global pool. So what have we got to be able to store these? Well, if I just go into the build menu, if you go into the build menu in the later build, you'll have raw resources and processed resources. Now processed, quickly, is the usual items: fuel tank, ammo barrels. Some slight changes if we go over here to fuel is there's now multiple versions. You have this one which looks like some jerry cans up, and then these are blocked based ones for more efficiency. So we have the standard jerry cans, and then a slightly one block, which you can see holds 1,000, so it's the same size. Then you've got a 2,000, this 4 block, which is 4,000, up to this 9 block, which is 9,000. So there's no advantage actually in the amount of fuel contained. It's not a compressed fuel, it's just a better block efficiency. So that's those. Now ammo, good old ammo barrels, haven't changed. I don't know whether there'll be some sort of reinforced ammo container in the future. Would be nice. But at the moment we've just got this basic old wooden barrel, which for me, storing ammo in a wooden barrel, not a good idea once you've gone beyond your sailing craft. And then you've got your ammo processor, which is the current way that we get we produce from metal, you create your ammo. And here we have our current fuel processor. So this is the fuel processor. If I go back here, the fuel processor here, which basically creates fuel from oil at a rate of 100 fuel for every 10 oil, and uses a little bit of power. But generally in most vehicles, this is more than one of these is more than enough. So they're your standard, should we say, processed resources. The supply pump is still here but is not being used, and you do have your scrap smelter and crystal growth trays, which are important at the beginning of the game. If we go over here, that's where you put these trays of crystal in, and it starts producing crystal automatically for you based upon your existing crystal. So it's you basically put crystal in, get crystal out, more crystal out. The scrap smelter generally, isn't used as much now by people, but generally it converts metal into scrap. If you need scrap and you have an excess of metal, you can use this. But generally, most people find that they've got a lacking in metal. Certainly, later on in the game, you will find that metal is the most scarce resource for your ship vessels. Finally, we have the keyboard killer, as I like to call it, the scrap block. So this is a spares crate, should we say? Sorry, scrap block. It's the spares crate. So basically, it costs natural resources to create scrap. To create spares, which can then be used for rebuilding your ships or your vessels, which is great. You know, they just cost natural resources, which is very abundant. The problem lies in when you want to reload your scrap. At the moment, you can see we've got 400. Now, there's no automated block. Now, I wish there was a block like the processor, etc., that would do this, but I have to go here and press Q. And then press Q again, and then again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And as you start putting more in, you'll see the return is getting less. And so now I'm having to press lots of Q, lots and lots of time. So, and you've got to do that on each of your ships. Or at least one central ship that then distributes the spares out to everybody else. But it's now getting a diminishing return. So there's no sort of like, just fill it all up, please. Which would be nice. So yes, a scrap spares processor would be nice, I think. Anyway, next side then. So that's all of our existing items that we use in the game already. So this new element is the raw resources. Now, raw resources are gathered in a number of ways. We'll go through the blocks in a second, but some of it is from blocks when we are over a resource zone, which is these circular areas in the map. We can use the resource gatherer, which gathers a certain amount of natural metal, scrap and crystal from the resource zone you are in. And then we have the oil drills, which, as the name suggests, they go down and gather oil. So they're all underneath. The oil going down there, and the beams for the resource gatherer going and gathering the materials. There is another way of gathering these materials, which we will from the enemy, which we will go through once I've gone through some of the basics. So I'm going to turn these off just at the moment, just so that we for testing. So the other part of now is storing the resources. So in the build menu, you've got these various containers. Now you've got a large and a small container in most of these items. And starting over this side, we have the natural resource container. So a single block which can be stacked together, or these larger containers. Now the crates themselves, the amount they store is not compressed. It is just an easier way to do the blocks, so more block efficiency. So that is your natural. You've then got metal. So these are your metal containers. Single block, which can be stacked, or these larger block containers. You've then got, we'll go for oil. So these are the oil containers. So that's a single one, which is too high by default. So it's basically an oil drum, which can be put together, and you can stack them as well on top of each other. quite happily. You've then got this larger container, and there's two versions of it. If I come out off of build mode for a second, there is two versions of it, where you can have the, there we go, that's better. You can have the base unit, and then there's a head unit. Now the head, you'll see, is a little bit more rounded off as such, just to give a little bit nicer view. What then we have is we're going to have scrap. So scrap is over here. Now its standard block is a 2-block chest, for want of a better word. So it's a chest style of design, which can be stacked together. And then you have this larger scrap container, which again can be stacked quite nicely. And then finally we have, well, not finally for raw resources though, we have crystal. So this is the standard crystal container, can be stacked together, and the larger crystal container is only, for want of a better word, a 4-block. It's not quite as large. It's not an 8-block like these are. It's just a 4-block 2x2. So when we're looking at that, you can see it's just a 2x2, which is good enough. Again, it can be stacked. Now there is one other container, and this is the miscellaneous. Now miscellaneous, let me just come off of there and come back here. Miscellaneous can store any of the raw resources, whatever is first to, if when you're gathering the resources, which we'll go through later, if your specific resource, let's say for crystal, fills up and you haven't got enough, it will then start looking for a miscellaneous container to use once your normal store is filled up. So these will fill up with anything. Just basically whichever resource fills up first, and you've got a single and a large storage container. So again, just for usage. So how is these materials used? Well, let me just bring back on the interface quickly. So we can see the amount we have here at the moment. Now we've got some oil is being used at the moment. One of the ships, I think, is sucking a bit of oil, but the rest of it is all fairly stable for natural and metal. Crystal is being created because of the growth trays here. So they're going to be increasing a little bit at a time. But the most obvious place, or there's two places where material is going to be used. First of all, let's say we are building a vessel. So your ship has a spawner on it, and you want to spawn in some vessel. It doesn't really matter what we bring in. We're bringing in an ironclad, I think, because that will use quite a bit of metal, so we'll be able to see it being built that way. So if I just load that ironclad, you can see it starting to be built. Now if I point it here, you'll notice the metal value and the natural value going down. So that is actually using the materials from this vessel. We'll just release it so it doesn't cause us to jam around, etc. So that is using these local resources. Now quite simply, if I run out of one of these resources on the vessel, it will stop building. So I can actually see if I can stimulate that. If we take away a whole load of metal, so our metal's only down to, let's go a little further still, let's really use all our metal up. So we've only got 4,000 of metal left. Let's see, have I got any other metal containers somewhere? No, I think it must have. I think that was just what was in here. So okay, let's see. We did get some metal back from those containers. So you can see that it's getting low, and it's still getting low. So now we're in the last couple of hundred, and now the metal has finished. Now what we'll see on the ship here, and we'll just get a different block so it's a little easier for you to see. What we'll see on the ship here is that the wooden parts will still be being built, but no metal parts will be built because there's no metal left. in storage as such. So what we would need to do is, if I put some storage ability here, let me just get the large containers, be quicker. Now you'll notice our storage has gone up, but we've still got no more metal. So we're still lacking metal as such to build this ship. So it's building all of the wooden parts, but anything that needs metal is a bit out of luck. So we'd have to start mining some more. So if we just start our gatherers up, and then look at this block here to get an idea, you'll see our metal is going up now, and as it's going up, it's starting to build the metal components that's required for this ship as such. So we can see that it's starting to be built, and it would be built from the resources. So the main reason for showing that is that items that get built will rely upon the materials that are within your area. So you need the right amount of metal, natural metal, crystal, scrap, etc., depending on what the blocks require to build the ship. So the speed you can build your ship is always going to be limited by what facilities you have on your ship in your local area. In game, what does this mean? Well, it means that you're going to be building your ships where your resources are, not just wherever you feel like it, and you have a spawner. You have to build on the resources. Also, if you are a ship which relies on drones a lot, your drone mothership will need lots of these resource containers on board to be able to create its drones. If you run out of resources on your mothership, then your drones will not get built. So it's all linked together in that particular fashion. So okay, that's still working at that. That's still going to come through. Now let's say we want to get some resources to us a little quicker to rebuild this rather than relying on this. And I'm actually going to turn these off just to show this working. So we're not getting any metal production now, so this should stop building. There we go. So we need metal. That's what we need. We need metal. Now what we can do is we can basically ship in materials to our bases. Now to do this, we're going to need two things. One is a vessel containing the materials, and two, a way of transporting those materials between the ships. So we'll go through that together. So what we have got travelling towards our base is a new little armed merchant ship that I have created, which has got lots of resource boxes on board, and some of it's full up. You know, you've got plenty of natural and metal, scrap and crystal, etc., which it's pulling towards us. And what we can see is, how do we transfer this? So that this could be filled up with materials as well, which we could do, which is being transported from a resource zone to the front of the battle. And as I say, this is armed, so it's got some defences and a cannon just to defend itself. But when we get close, now initially it's having no effect. It's not really transferring. We're still not getting any more resources from our ship. It is coming in and actually doing some of the repairing, which isn't exactly what I wanted, but it is now using its materials from on board. Let me just get on board, excuse me, so we can see that a little bit easier. It was using its metal on board to build the ship. So that is one way you can have builder ships which basically go and collect resources and then come back and load up again. But what if we would just want to transfer the resources to this our mother base in the first place? So I'd spoken about gathering materials using the scrapper, which were using the resource gatherers, which we will start again off here. But there is another way of gathering resources, and that is through combat. Now, when we have combat with a ship now, what you will find is that it will leave resources in the water. Now, that can be seen as these red X's on the map. Now, if we hover over those X's, you'll see this has 79,000 of natural. This one here, again, natural. We want some with metal. So here's one with metal. So if we, and all you've got to do to gather it is get a ship. So we take our merchant ship close to that point. So we're going to send him on a little route to come there and then back to us again. We need him to get close to that with spare space in containers to be able to contain that mineral or that resource. Now, it will do it in battle, so if in battle you have ships close to enough to the enemy, and close enough seems to be about a few hundred meters or so of the target. Not sure exact distance, I haven't measured it exactly, but you know, it's not thousands of meters, it is fairly close. You have to be. You do get a little message turning up in the left hand side of the HUD when we get close, so we'll just speed it up to the point where we're close to those resources. And our merchant ship has now picked up a good 60,000 metal from those ships that were on the map, the hulks, the remainders of them, plus some scrap and crystal, etc. And now it is making its way back to the main base. So we're just making our way back towards the fortress. So on the map, some of them are still there because they have some natural left. So most of them disappeared because we took the resources. This one's still got a fair bit of natural resource left, so it hasn't been removed from the screen as yet. If I go to our ship, we can see, I did actually just, you can see on the left hand side, it just said about scrap that it had just salvaged. So it may well have just picked those. Yes, it did pick that bit of natural up. So we're not full up. It had some spare capacity, but you could see on the distance on there, it had to be relatively close to the target to pick up that scrap suitably. So, okay, our ship is still being built at the moment. I'm just going to turn off these resource collectors. So now, as our ship gets close, we'll notice our metal still isn't that high. So there's now another part of resource management, which is resource groups. Now, how do resource groups, and how do I see these resource groups? Right, now, there's a new button. It's not displayed anywhere, but it's actually pressing the R button. Now, if I press R, you'll see that there's all these wonderfully confusing lines have appeared on the screen. Well, these are actually your raw resources and process resources that you have on your vessel. So if we look at the fortress here, which is where these particular items are for, and we look at what we've got, we'll see natural is 99%. So that's the green bar there. You'll notice that green bar is a bit long and it's going all the way up there, 99%, which is really good. Then we've got metal, which is we've got nothing, so that's why it's empty. And so on, oil, scrap and crystal. Oil, scrap, crystal. And over here we have a few other lines which don't fit in 100%, but I believe that is fuel. We've got one which is spares. Now if I look at our spares crates on here, we're pretty okay. If I just put that up to so it's nearer 100%. There we go, that's closer. You'll notice one of the lines. Oh, I'm going to take the armed scout out of play for a second. He's obviously deciding to try and ram into us. We'll deal with him in a little bit. So our spares have gone up to 100%, and the other one's going to be ammo. So they're your other processed resources which are appearing in here. Right, so how do I transfer all of this lovely resource which is on here? You can see we've got some nice metal and some other items, and I want them on this base here. Well, what we have to do is put them into resource groups. So we can group various ships together so that they will share resources between each other. So to access that, you can do it in the map view. Now, because I've got that R, you'll notice I've pressed the R button, and I can press it again in map view. You'll notice that this extra rings have appeared, and that they're different coloured. Now, the colours correspond to these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and each of the vessels, as we select it, if I go here, you'll notice there is also these bars here as well change as I select the different vessels. So if I set our starter force, now our starter fort is in group 1, which is the green circle, and is in group 5, which is the white circle. So he will transfer resources between anyone else in that same group and that is in range. So they've got to be within the circle and in the same colour. And it will also, these little items here will set how much resource it will allow. So in here I've told it to keep 30% for its own use. So it'll always keep 30% of all the raw resources which are on the top: natural, metal, oil, scrap and crystal, and then we have the processed resources, which is spare parts. So it always keeps 30% of the spare parts itself. Ammo, it will give all of its ammo away because it doesn't use any ammo. And fuel, it will keep 30% because it needs some. So if you don't need something, now you would give everything away, whereas if you want something, like it's going to need some fuel, so it's not going to give everything away. And this is mainly a collection point, so it's not going to give away most of its items. Now you can't make these different for each group. They are the same. The values are ship-wide. It's only the groups you can change. Now let's look at our merchant. Now our merchant is not a member of any group. So for it to now share with the starter fort, we have to set it to a same group. Now I'm going to just do like this so it keeps everything at this second, right? So if we set it to group 5, you can see there's lots of movement now heading around here. All those numbers flying around. Now that's where the ships are basically sharing out their resources. Now it's actually our starter fort, because our merchantman is set to 100%, it's saying gimme, 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 and it is actually taking all of the resources from the resource fort that it can get up to the resource fort's 30%. So it should go down to 30% of all of those particular values. So it's taking a whole lot of items. Or that should be what's happening. Although it looks like it's actually giving some of the materials to this, although you would expect it to be going the other way. Don't you just love it? Right, okay, now if we select this and say, right, keep nothing, it should. You can see all of these items are now flowing the opposite direction. Now I think it's a bit of a bug at the moment, in that at the moment if I set these to 100, they go, then it gives it back, then it sends it back again. It seems to flow in a very weird direction in some way. So if I now say it to say, right, give 100% of everything back, and we'll keep only a small amount of ammo and fuel for your own use. I'll just spawn the vehicle in. So now our resources, we'll see metal, we're up to a good 26,000 now, so we've got a good amount of metal has come on board now. And if we go to our merchantman, it might be easier to actually see it from the map, because when we're in the map and resource view, if I hover over, you'll notice no metal, no oil, no scrap or crystal. So it's given all of, the only thing it's left with is natural, which is there's an overabundance of, as I said before. So it's basically now empty, and it could go off and go and find some scrap somewhere else to use. So let's turn that off. So we just send it back over there for the moment, so it's out of the way. So these are your don't crash into us, just annoying little so-and-so. Let's just turn him off. So that's using the resource groups, and that resource transfer happens whether you are also even if the vehicle is not spawned in. So you don't have to be spawned in to transfer your resources. So if earlier on the merchantman, it was not online, and if I now put him into there, you'll notice that the metal is now going back to the merchantman, and let's just transfer it back again. There we go. So you don't need to be spawned in if you're in a battle, so your transport ships need to be part of your battle fleet, but don't actually have to be spawned in. They just have to be part of the fleet, and also within this circle range. Obviously, if your ships get too far away, and this circle's looks like it's about 1,000 meters, just over, I think, somewhere around that. So it has to be within 1,000 meters of friendly ships to transfer over the necessary materials. Okay, final bit of why these resources are going to be very important. Okay, we're stable there. Let me just get some resources up. There we go. So the other part of where resources are required is for repairs. This is repairs of your own ship, and also repairs of other ships. Now what I've just set up here is some way just to quickly create a situation. So when you're repairing a ship, the first part that will get used will be your spares. So any items in spares crates will first of all be used. So if I just cause this to destroy part of our own ship, so that's a whole load of metal blocks just got destroyed there. So our avatar plus also the robots are now coming back, and you'll notice our spares is going down. So we'll just let the repair robots go in there, and you'll notice all the spares have been disappearing there, and they've almost gone. So if we start looking at the resource values using this, you'll now notice the metal is now going down, because they've used all the spares up, and they will start using the metal from the ship. So or whatever resource happens to be required for it. So it needs to be the correct type of resource, etc. Spares, or the spares crates, are the most efficient way, I think, at this moment for repairing items, because it's miscellaneous. It covers all of your different type of items, not just metal or natural. It repairs everything. You can also replenish it, although it's not automatic. You can replenish it from natural resources, which is very abundant. So whether that will change in the future, I'm not sure. But at the moment, if I want to put some more spares in, just hit the mash the Q button many times until we get it to a decent level. And if we now do it again, it will start using the spares instead. And so if you're prepared to There we go. Now you can have your armed merchantmen or your ships which are part of the battle group can have an excess amount of spares in them. So you could have one ship which is your spares container, and it basically supplies spare parts, and then that way you've only got to go to one ship to basically mash the Q button until it's filled up with lots and lots of spares, and then it supplies all the other all the other vehicles in the fleet with spare parts. So that's another use for the merchantman, is to do the spares creation and basically create supply all of your robots with whatever's required for repairs. Okay, so that's also one of the reasons why repairs are not working quite as efficiently on some people's machines, people's systems, because they need these spares crates or the resources available. Okay, one other section then is we're done repairing. Now the other side is fuel. Now we have fuel here at the moment. It's not too bad. Our fuel is going up, but let's say we want to produce some more fuel in usage. So we'll just bring something in which is going to use a whole shed load of fuel. Okay, so I've created a simple little double-ended jet which is burning fuel at a fair old rate in general. You'll notice this has a good amount of fuel, and then every now and again it is burning it quite successfully, and then it will release it and then burn a few bit more fuel. So it's constantly burning the fuel. We could make that a little bit longer and thing, but it's sufficient for our purposes. So on our main vessel now, our fuel has now gone down, so we're down quite significantly. Now to produce fuel, the existing way is this little device here, which is very efficient, and I'm sure they're going to, as I said before, I think they're going to nerf it a little bit. So if I turn that on, that means every second it's producing 100 fuel, which is generally on its own more than is that jet is using, as an example. So it's producing a nice bit of fuel there. So we turn it off, and our actual resources would have gone down. So our oil is at 5,500. We'll just get some oil being produced. There we go. So just bring some oil in. So there is another way now. It's going to be the most efficient way of producing oil, assuming this will get nerfed a bit, is this new refinery. So if we go into build mode, where do we find this? Well, under processed resources we have the fuel refinery, and it's made up of these various parts: the refinery, desalter, coker, cracker, and the flare stacks. So they combine together to make a refinery. So let me just get a different block so it's a little bit less obtrusive. So this is our basic unit, the refinery, and you could just have just the refinery on its own. You don't need all of these other items, but each time you add one of these items there is a benefit. So on the item on its own, if we turn it on, there we go, it's now starting to produce fuel, but you'll notice there's a couple of problems here. One, it's no better than the small one, so it's producing the same amount of fuel. You also notice that dangerous gas percentage is going up, which we'll get into a little bit later, but it's not really producing much better than it currently is. So if we were to add this desalter as our first item, you'll notice immediately that our efficiency has gone up to 11. So our fuel produced is 110 every 1.2 seconds. So actually it's not bad. It's an efficiency of 11 to 1 basically. If you imagine that this is a 10 to 1, so if we just take that off again, you see the efficiency is 10, so that's 10 to 1. Put this back in again. Well, let's just make sure I get the right place. Desalter. There we go. Make sure it's lined up. There we go. So that's now, our efficiency is now 11 to 1. Our dangerous gas is going up though still, which we'll get into in a few minutes. Right, so the next bit is how can we increase that efficiency a little bit more. So next we'll go for the coker. So the coker basically increases the refining time primarily. So if we add one of those in, and I'm going to take out that unit for the moment, we'll notice that our fuel processed now, our efficiency has gone up to 14.3, although our process time has increased. Now if we add another one, our efficiency 17.6. Okay, we're getting a little bit better. So now our efficiency at 20.9. So that's 20 units for every 10 oil usage, although the process time is 3.3. So we have to balance the oil usage compared to the time it's taken to produce it. It depends what is your biggest requirement is speed of production. So if we want efficient creation, we can add in cokers. And we're seeing it is a diminishing return. You see its efficiency is 27.5, 24. So we could add in, there we go, say 5 of those to get a nice efficient, but it's taking quite some time to produce 4.8. But we could add those to a degree. But now you can see 34, we're still getting a good return. You could build a site which has got lots of those cokers, as an example. We'll stick with 3 though. So, but it's taking 3.36. Now, what is the last one? Is the catalytic cracker. So if we add that in, we'll notice that efficiency shot up. 31, let's see, we've gone from 20 up to 31. But look at the process time, 8.4. Here, 3. But that process time is significant increase in efficiency, but so a big increase in time. So if let's add a few of those in. 313. Sorry, should I say that wasn't wrong value there. Efficiency 52. Efficiency 62. $73, but look at the time now, 28 seconds to produce that quantity. You'll also notice our gas has increased. Our dangerous gas has gone up, and our stacks, which are required, are burning off that dangerous gas. But heck, you know, we want to. We've never been one to really go with safe. You know, we've always been a little bit wayward. I'm just standing a little bit away just to be on the safe side. So, okay, we want more efficiency. Yes, we want more. So where are we up to? 83. Yes, there we go. And what we got there? 94 efficiency. Oh yes. Well, what the heck if it's the gas gets up a little high? Not really a problem, is it? You know, we're producing oil at a tremendous rate now. Well, we were. So yes, you don't want your gas getting too high. It can definitely be detrimental to your fuel production. So as you add in your crackers, you've got to make sure that you have enough stacks. It's better to have too many stacks than not enough, basically. Are we there? We're not quite repaired yet. Are you going to repair that last bit? Come on. Get over there. Just waiting for them to repair it. Or have we run out of resources? No, we've got enough metal. Got enough metal. Let's just get my character closer to it, so we can get a little bit, go in there and repair it. Come on, you going to repair that? Come on. Come on. No? Okay, it doesn't seem to want to repair the desalter at the moment, so we'll put that in manually. Right, decided to do it once I deleted it. Okay, obviously something wrong with the positioning of those blocks, but anyway, we are now back up and working. Our dangerous gas, so to reduce our dangerous gas, if I put some more stacks in, you'll notice, there we go, dangerous gas is going down again. So you do need to balance that. And also, don't put any ammo barrels near your fuel production. That would be also very bad. So we've got a good efficiency there, 73, but it is taking 28 seconds to produce it, but it's producing a large amount of fuel every now and again. How is our fuel? Our fuel has just about run out now. So okay, if we wanted to speed this up, so let's say I want to get this speeded up. So let's put some more cokers in there instead. And we'll take out the catalytics. Okay, so that's producing it a lot quicker. So we should get small amounts of build-up now. Right, our fuel is finally increasing one more time. Although it is a little slow, it is now increasing. I created a second small unit. I needs a little bit of working, but I think multiple small units might be slightly more efficient than one very large unit. Now, maybe that might change in the future. I think in theory that should be the other way around. It needs to work on the figures. The main bit is over time as to how long you can wait. It is more efficient in the amount of fuel, the amount of oil used, but it's just the time requirement is, process time 59 seconds, 28 seconds. That double the time for less than double the quantity, although it is for the same amount of oil. So definitely more oil efficient, having a big plant, but more time efficient having the smaller plant. So you need to balance which is required. One thing to be aware of, what you're going to have to do is stockpile your fuel. Your fuel will be stockpiled for when your ships, if you've got a lot of very inefficient engines or jets, they will need to just have the fuel for when they're in battle. And the other one is, initially, at the moment, your vessels can still use this small processor, but eventually I'm guessing that will be taken out or reduced significantly in efficiency, and you'll need to have oil supplies and either bigger oil containers, etc., on your big thirsty jets. But okay, that's that side of it. So I think we've gone through all of the various things. Also, one other thing, you could, if you're after something that looks quite nice, this could be very good for funnels on a ship. Let's put it that way. Obviously the flaming, just get enough just to get a little bit of flame coming out. And I think you could do it just with one of these and a flare stack. Oops, let's just make sure it's on the bottom. There we go. Yeah, just one of these with a few of those would give you enough to make a nice funnel on a ship. Obviously that's a bit flaring at the moment, but you just get enough. I think 6 might do. There we go. So you just got to keep a little bit of gas, and then that could be your funnel stack on one of your ships if you're after something when you want some smoke coming out the top. A little bit better than the smoke you get here from your engine, which does work, but yeah, that's a little nicer as such. So that's local resources and how they have to be transferred, how that's going to change the game. We're going to need resource vessels. You're going to need oil refineries. And oil drilling rigs, and then fuel refineries. You're going to need the merchant ships, and also you're going to need ships which will scavenge the map after a battle, so that you can pick up all of those lovely resources. Instead of them being given to you automatically, you now have to go and pick them up. So start building your cargo ships and the other vessels that or put these extra trays into your normal ships. You know, just a few small metal and natural, or just lots of miscellaneous if it comes to it as well, will just mean you've got some materials to be able to repair your ships. So I can see there's going to be a lot of building happening. I don't know how the AI factions are going to use this, and whether it's still going to apply to them. Hopefully it will do, and we'll have to see in their fleets there will be either ships will have these resource pods, or ships specifically for resource gathering. And you never know, you might see some fleets moving backwards and forwards, which are purely a supply fleet, which means you could send in someone to interdict it. That's not in the game yet. This is like what I hope will happen, is every now and again it will have to say, okay, that point needs some materials, so one of the resource points has to send a small resource fleet out. Very much like it does at the moment when it builds up the fleet, just giving it fleet points, but instead it gives that fleet resource points, for want of a better word. I'm sure they've got something in their mind that they're working on that there, but it'll be interesting to see what they all come up with. But as I say, it's just an interesting time, and lots of changes. It does need a lot of balancing still. You're going to need to work out what does and doesn't work for your vessels and your ship. This balancing fuel is going to become very important. As you can see, we're still not really making enough fuel, even with all of this going, to supply those two small jets to go constantly. It is slightly going faster, but not by very much. So, any comments? Leave them below. Remember, this is not in the live build. This is a dev build, and it is subject to change before it goes live. There will be, I'm sure, balancing, some different blocks, possibly a whole different resource management, the way these plants work, possibly even how hopefully there is something which allows me to build spares. Please, spares! My Q button's worn out. But until next time, click that like button. Above all, keep building those ships. Submit your ships to come into the campaign. But have fun.